We're live.
Good evening, and my name is Joshua. I want to welcome you to the CLE group chat where we discuss various topics, trying to provide a biblical perspective. And today is August 5th, 2017, and we have Jeannie from Australia, Tanya from Indiana, and also from Indiana we have Christopher, who started this ministry. Now, we're only allowing our church members on these video calls, but you can still watch and use live chat and share this video with family and friends to watch it with you live. And if you're watching a recording, you can subscribe and click the bell, and that should let you know when we're live, so you can chat with other live viewers during the broadcast. And without further ado, an article from WWL is titled, let's see, what's it titled? It's titled, "Forcing Inmate to Cut Dreadlocks Violates Religious Freedom, Court Rules." And the article says, a state inmate who argued that being forced to cut his dreadlocks would be an infringement on his religious rights can keep his hairstyle, an appeals court decided. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed a prior lower court's ruling which said the State Department of Corrections could forcibly cut the hair of Christopher Ware.
See, that's what I was actually going to address when you mentioned that. I was like, I've read this before. There's an article. Now, surprisingly, yes, I have read a current events article. Surprising, I know. I did check it out one time because I was researching something else and I saw it on the side. I was like, what? It was like, guy forced to cut hair. What's the problem with that? And then what it was about was, I forget, some religious thing he had where it was part of his religion to have his long hair. And so, but they forced him to cut it because when you go into a prison, first of all, you don't have rights. Why courts are trying to protect the religious rights of criminals? Okay, now some people might say, well, Chris, there's people that go to prison, they actually didn't do anything wrong. They're actually innocent. That's true, but you still lose your rights. I mean, criminals do not have rights in prison. Anything that they're given is a privilege, absolute privilege. The fact that they are allowed to live is a privilege granted by the government at that point. Okay, so for them to say, well, we can't cut your hair, we see part of the problem, and I guarantee you this ruling was objected to by police and prison security guards everywhere. I guarantee it, because they know these guys will hide stuff anywhere. We're talking weapons. That means, see, the average citizen doesn't have to go into the prisons on a regular basis. They don't have to walk and guard the halls of these prisons. So the average citizen doesn't understand that these prison guards put their lives on the line on pretty much a daily basis. Yes, I realize there are long stretches of boredom with punctuated, it's just like the military. There's these punctuations of exclamation points of things that happen. You have to go full gear, from 0 to full gear immediately. And that's what security, all security works that way. And so, and I worked security for 3 years, so I know. So the thing is, they are putting their lives on the line for someone who has that kind of thing, because they can hide stuff in there that they're not supposed to have. And they can be weapons, they can be blades, there can be all sorts of things that can put their lives at risk. So what the court, whatever they decide, I'm going to listen to the article and see what they say, but whatever they decide, if they say, well, the dreadlocks, you could really see through those a little bit, irrelevant. You can hide things inside the dreadlocks. You can hide pins and needles inside those dreadlocks. And people, whatever the court's deciding here, I guarantee you, just based on what you've shown me, it is absolutely wrong for them to do that. And what they're doing is they're making a decision based on these people being the same as the average citizen. Okay. For example, one of the misconceptions, I'll give this just to preface this, okay? One of the misconceptions the average American has is that anytime you are arrested by a police officer, you have to be read your rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to a court-appointed or attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed for you at the cost of the state. You have the right to invoke these rights at any time. These typical things are things that in America that you're supposed to have to say when you're arrested. However, what most citizens don't understand is that you don't have to read them. That's only if you're under interrogation. Okay? In a criminal interrogation, would you then have to be read your rights? So you're not always read your rights in every instance. And some people think that self-defense applies to all people. I'm just giving you some examples to show you why they're ruling on this wrong. Self-defense, for example, if someone snuck into your home, right, and you could not see them in the dark and you shot at them, you were defending yourself, right? Now, let's say that you've got some criminal, okay, let's say he's out selling drugs, which is illegal, right? He's selling illegal narcotics on the street, and another gang catches him, and you said, hey, you're on our turf. And he's like, I don't think so. I don't have to pay attention to that. And they start shooting. Well, he turns around, he shoots them, and he kills 3 of them. And he pleads self-defense. Irrelevant. You don't get self-defense rights. Why? Because he's a criminal. Criminals do not get the same rights as citizens. And so that's the point I'm trying to get across here, is that once you're doing certain illegal activity, you have forfeited your rights on a legal standpoint. So the Constitution does not apply to prisoners. It only applies to prisoners in certain sections of the Constitution. That means with you, like Fifth Amendment rights, or rights to, right to trial and things like that. There are certain rights that apply, but not all the rights. Your right to free speech does not apply. Your right to freedom of religion does not apply once you are criminalized. Now, that's where things can get dangerous when the government goes bad, which is why the Second Amendment was put in place. That is the right to bear arms, ourselves from a government that goes rogue. But now we're in a situation where things have gotten so bad that it's like the people that are good can't necessarily defend themselves if something bad like that happens to them, that they're actually innocent. So that's where the controversy is being raised. But from normal criminal activity, you don't get the same rights. And so having, well, I should have the religious right to keep my hair the way I want to, irrelevant. Irrelevant. You do not have that right. And the court ruling in favor of that, they're actually ruling against Constitution and against legalities. And like they said in the article, I've read that before where that was ruled on the past. No, you cannot do that. You have to get your hair cut when you go in there. And they're here again, what they're pointing that out, but then they're ruling against that. And I want to hear the reasoning for it, if you don't mind continuing.
It continues, Ware, which is his last name, Ware is a Rastafarian whose religious beliefs require he wear his hair in dreadlocks. Majori Esmond, Executive Director of the ACLU of Louisiana, and ACLU stands for American Civil Liberties Union. Anyway, the Executive Director of Louisiana said...
That's incorrect. It stands for the American Communist Lawyers Union. They need to correct that in their article.
Thank you.
Roger Baldwin, the founder of it, he says, we are for socialism, disarmament, and communism is the goal. He said that. That's why he started the organization. If people want to come down on me for saying that the ACLU has basically demonic intentions, you can make all the accusations at me you want. I'm providing the evidence, okay? And I guess you could probably type in the word Baldwin, Baldwin under the search bar creationliberty.com, and I probably got 2 or 3 articles I quoted. I think the last time I remember quoting him in one of my articles where I quoted that spot was the one I did on Wolves in Costume, Martin Luther King Jr. I think that's the one that I talked about that on. So if you type in King, K-I-N-G, in the search bar creationliberty.com, the article again is called Wolves in Costume, Martin Luther King Jr. Read through that. It'll explain what I'm talking about. Martin Luther King Jr. was not a Christian. He was not somebody fighting for freedom. He was a communist, okay, flat out. He was a socialist and communist, and the ACLU is the exact same thing.
So the executive director for Louisiana says, this is a victory for our client and for all Louisianians who cherish their religious freedom. All people, including those in prison, have a fundamental right to express their religious beliefs free from discrimination.
Do you see what I mean? That's coming from the ACLU, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the problem. See, the ACLU has been fighting to give criminals freedom of religious rights, which they don't have, the same as they've been fighting to protect evolutionism, which is a New Age religion, in our public school systems. You see, the ACLU's purpose is not to protect your rights. The ACLU's purpose is to bring communism and socialism into our government, which is what's happening when you're giving criminals religious rights.
It continues. Attorneys for the DOC of Department of Correction. Attorneys for the DOC, which means, or the Department of Corrections, right? Previously said the grooming policy is in place for safety reasons. and as a way to prevent contraband getting into jails. Just like you said earlier, because they can hide it in their dreadlocks, yeah. Esmond has said the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, which Congress passed in 2000, prohibits religious discrimination against incarcerated people and requires that any burdens on prisoners' rights...
Wait, what act? What act was that?
Esmond has said the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, which Congress passed in 2000.
Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act? What did those two phrases have to do with each other?
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like, how can they combine those together? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, the religious land use, but yeah, I don't really get the rest of it.
Wait, religious land use?
Yeah, and yeah.
I don't want to disrupt your reading of this. I almost wish we could pause this for 2 minutes and give me silent thinking time so I can try to deduce where this is coming from. Because the only... No, I've got like 3 theories, and I don't even want to talk about them because it's going to get off on rabbit trails. I'll keep listening.
All right. So it said, Esmond has said the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, which Congress passed in 2000, prohibits religious discrimination against incarcerated people and requires that any burdens on persons' rights serve a compelling state interest and be imposed through the least restrictive means.
But cutting their hair is not religious discrimination. By legal definition, it's not religious discrimination. Let's say this. Because discrimination, and I guess maybe, I don't know whether I need to look up a definition of it to make sure people understand what I'm talking about. Just bear with me, okay? Let me, it's just to give, I could have said this on my own, but I want to give you a dictionary definition. An act or instance of discriminating and there again, discrimination, using the word discriminating in the definition of the word. You know how many dictionaries do that? They use the word to define itself. You can't do that, okay? You have to use other words. Use your words, dude, okay? Or it says, or of making a distinction. Now, what that means is that you would look out at a crowd and you would treat one person differently because you picked them out because of their religion. All inmates get their hair cut. He's not being picked out of a line and saying, oh, wait, we're cutting your hair because you're of this religion. That has nothing to do with religious discrimination. All inmates get it, okay? So in order to do that, that means you have to be selecting someone specifically and targeting them. And they don't care. Look, prison guards get paid, but they do not. That is above their pay grade to care what religious background somebody has when they go into prison. Most of them, and I'll tell you this, and I'm not saying this works for any inmates, but a lot of these guys, they got a wife, they got a family to take care of. They could care less what religion you came from. Their job is to make sure you are in your cell when you're supposed to be, that you're supposed to be doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, that you're not harming other inmates in the process and causing trouble, and they are there to protect their own lives so they can go home to their families. They don't care what your religious institution you belong to. It doesn't matter. This is not discrimination. That's my point.
Well, and the thing is it sounds like, even if it were, it sounds like a made-up religion just so he can keep his hair the way he wants it, which is totally ridiculous.
I've never heard of it. You have to, what was it again, Josh? Can you repeat that and like articulate a little more? What is it called?
Rastafarian, I believe. Rastafarian?
Rastafarian. Did you happen to do any research to find out what exactly that was before?
No, I didn't.
All right, well, it's up in the air for me then.
It continues.
I've heard of it before. Said I've heard of it before. Rastafarianism.
Oh, so I suppose Jeannie's confirming that it is a real thing. But it continues, where filed a prior lawsuit in which lawyers claimed the DOC's intake policies require that all inmate males receive, forcibly if necessary, a closely cropped haircut with clippers, commonly known as a buzz cut. Just like Christopher was saying, all inmates have to do it. It's not discrimination. According to court documents, as an exercise of his faith, he took what he describes as the vow of the Nazarite, one aspect of which requires him not to cut or style the hair on his head. As a result of Ware's adoption of the Nazarite vow in connection with his Rastafari religious exercise, his hair has grown and continues to grow into long dreadlocks. A district court ruled in favor of the DOC in 2014, something the state ACLU appealed. In its appeal, the ACLU said 39 states and even DOC's own guidelines for parish jails impose less restrictive grooming policies.
Yeah, but that's vague. Less restrictive grooming policies. Let me explain to you what that could mean. Normally, everybody comes in with the same clippers set to the same settings of the same buzz cut. A less aggressive grooming policy would allow someone like me. Now, you look at my hair as it is, I obviously can't hide anything in this. So they could say, okay, you can go with that. And they wouldn't buzz cut me, right? That's less aggressive. This typically would be acceptable in a prison in most instances because I can't hide anything in this whatsoever. That doesn't mean, just because 39 states have a less aggressive, doesn't mean that they don't require a certain short length of hair on men so they can't hide anything in it. Do you see how the ACLU, these guys are very highly trained lawyers. They know how to play word games. You have to be extraordinarily careful with how they word every phrase they use.
Yeah,
well, I'm sorry to interrupt. Another thought I had is when you read that it was a Nazarite vow, the Mormons also do that. They take what they call a Nazarite vow, like Samson did, which they've totally paganized the Nazarite vow. And it's just plain ridiculous. I mean, cut the man's hair and be done with it, please.
Yeah, but you see, the problem is that the Nazarite vow, I mean, that's a lot of Old Testament stuff there. I mean, we don't really, I mean, maybe there's Jews that do that or something still today. I mean, that's possibly the case. But again, in Scripture, you're supposed to follow the laws of the land. If you're arrested under this, like, for example, did the article actually say what the guy was incarcerated for?
Oh, the original article did at WWLC, but I didn't want to talk about that part because I didn't feel like it was appropriate to talk about it.
Well, I mean, you can name a crime, can't you? You don't have to tell us all the details. Oh. Like, if he raped 5 women, we don't need to hear all the details of it, but tell us what was the crime?
I believe it used the word buffeting. I believe it. Well,
don't you mean buffet?
I don't know.
Ate too much at a buffet and got arrested?
Well, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know what it is?
I could look it up. I could look it up right now.
Okay. You don't have to. You don't have to. If you don't know, it's okay. I'm just saying, what was this guy put in prison for is the question we have to ask. Was it murder? Was it theft? Was it rape? Was it whatever it was? If he was actually doing something in devotion to God, he wouldn't have been in prison for that in the first place. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that someone can't be persecuted and put in prison wrongfully. That can happen. But here, whatever he was doing, it wasn't of God anyway. So if somebody thinks that they're offending God, the true living God, by cutting this man's hair, you've got to be kidding me, because he's already broken his vow. A Nazarite vow, you weren't supposed to be, whatever he was doing to get him put in prison, he wasn't supposed to be doing under that vow, which means the vow is null and void. So it doesn't apply anymore. Done. So the point is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whatever excuse he wants to make. First of all, they're arguing religious discrimination, which I actually just in 20 seconds showed you guys is not true by looking up a dictionary definition. It was real simple. I could literally, and people think, I know, Chris is some young, dumb kid. What would he know? I could go into court and argue that before a judge and win. Real simple. If you know anything about the subject, I mean, and so it's not religious discrimination, even under the fact that, well, maybe we don't want to offend God. Too late. He already offended God by breaking the vow in the first place. So either way, the man needs his haircut.
And that was the end of the article. So if there's no more thoughts, I'll move on. An article from Gizmo Do is titled, YouTube has a naughty corner for the controversial religious and supremacist videos. Today, YouTube clarified how it plans to handle videos that don't violate any of its policies, but still contain offensive religious and supremacist content. Hide them and make sure they can't make any money.
Well, they hide them and make sure they can't make any money. This is not a big deal. I'm actually in favor of them doing it. Because notice they didn't say they were going to remove them. After all, freedom of speech, right? So what the average Christian would be worried about, if you think about it, what are you guys immediately worried about? They're going to claim that what's biblical is racist according to the standard of the social justice smurfs, or warriors they call themselves. But the thing is, that's what people are, they're going to say, well, the Bible's hate speech, and so then YouTube would have to, if they were under deletion, they would have to remove it. That's what Christians would be concerned about, and so would I. But they said hide them and don't let them make any money. Well, you'll notice, at least at creationliberty.com, I don't know about other places, I don't monetize any of our videos. I also don't go out advertising any of our videos, do I? I don't go onto YouTube, I think they call it YouTube Red or things like that, and you can pay money and you can advertise. I don't do any of that. People are free to not listen to anything I say. And so with that, this actually doesn't affect Christians hardly at all if they're being Christian. Now, it's going to affect major mainstream entities who make lots of money and need lots of viewers so they can make more monetizing funds from their ads. This is definitely going to concern them. But for the rest of us, it doesn't matter. Anyway, sorry, please go ahead. I am interested to hear what's going on, though. I don't want you to think that when I say it doesn't matter that you shouldn't read it. I want to hear it.
Right, and when your point's valid about like the monetizing and that. When they say hide them, what they mean is they'll basically, I take it as like a penalty, it's not going to show up in the suggested videos like on the side that they have. So it's going to be, you're going to get less viewers basically, but you'll still get to keep it up. Yeah.
But my point that I want to make, and what a lot of Christians will say, well, Chris, even you said you've had problems with atheists. Oh, yeah, I have. And we'll say, well, can an atheist come on and just spam a bunch of reports on your video? Oh, yeah, and they already have, right? That's already happened before. But they don't have a basis and justification to it. See, we serve a God that's greater than YouTube. I know that sounds funny to some people. They're like, well, it's like, yeah, but we have to think about, YouTube could hide and monetize. YouTube could delete the video and God could bring it back up in an instant if he wanted to. Our God is greater than that. So they can come after me all they want for simply pointing out, hey, look, guys, homosexuality is sin. Homosexuality is a choice. These gays, what they come out and what they do is wicked. It's evil. Many of them are pagans and atheists, people who hate God, and they are wicked in their hearts because the Bible says that they are. They make that choice to satisfy their own lusts, okay? So do the fornicators on YouTube. So do the witches and the pagans on YouTube. The Bible says none shall enter into the kingdom of God. And there's none righteous, no, not one. So all have to come to repentance to give the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and put the Son of God's blood on their account. Unless that happens, they are not entering the kingdom of heaven. Now, if they want to call that hate speech, they can call it whatever they want. I don't care. If God takes me off YouTube, fantastic. He'll find another method. If he wants my material out there, he'll find another method for it, folks. There's still something called a printer. There's still such a thing as paper. Paper does not disintegrate and cease to exist because YouTube deleted a video, okay? There are other methods to get things out there. They may not be as quick, they may not be as efficient for us, but God does the blessing on these things, meaning that nobody's going to watch my videos anyway unless God leads them to it to watch it in the first place. So anyway, that's why I'm saying it's not really an issue for Christians. That's the point I was making.
The news comes as a status report on the promises made by Google General Counsel Kent Walker in a June Financial Times op-ed. which announced YouTube was taking several steps to inhibit extremist videos. These steps included investing in machine learning technology to help identify videos associated with terrorism, increasing the number of trusted flaggers to identify content that can be used to radicalize terrorists, and redirecting potential extremist groups to watch counterterrorism videos instead.
Trusted flaggers. Now that is the problem. Who's trusted? Who do we trust to do that? Well, somebody who YouTube has trained to identify certain things. Now, the question is, how are they trained? What are they trained to look for? See, none of all that's hidden. YouTube is not going to come out and tell everybody all the standards of criteria that they use to do this, because then people will do everything in their power to bounce around that criteria and try to find little ways around it. They're not going to tell everybody. They're just going to do it. And keeping this in secret also helps them if they are actually getting good material off the internet, off of their videos. That's one way for them to do it, because you have to remember that YouTube is run by Google, okay? And Google is, part of like the the big meetings, like the Bilderberg meetings and things like that. Google's been a part of those. So you have to understand that this is all going to correlate together eventually, all right? And that's why I tell people, I could be off the YouTube tomorrow. All this could be shut down tomorrow, and we'd be gone off of there. My entire website, my entire online presence could be shut down tomorrow if they really wanted to. The Lord God allows it to stay on there. So what we have to understand is not the end of the world. There's still things to do once all that ends, but the internet right now is a useful tool that the Lord has allowed us to be able to be on, and has given us a large evangelism opportunity for us to be able to reach out to places we would have never been able to reach out to before.
Walker also wrote that YouTube would take a tougher stance on controversial videos that don't actually violate any YouTube policies. In a blog post today, YouTube provided a better sense of what the stance entails. Now, when YouTube decides that a flagged video doesn't break policy but still contains controversial religious or supremacist content, the video will be put in a limited state. Here, the video will exist in a sort of limbo, where it won't be recommended or monetized. It also won't include suggested videos or allow comments or likes. This new approach...
How coincidental. How coincidental. I don't allow comments and likes on our videos anyway. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing when you approach it from a Christian perspective. What they're doing doesn't matter.
This new approach will apply to desktop versions of YouTube within the next few weeks, and on mobile soon after that. Of course, when YouTube removes a video, the video can easily be re-uploaded, or a mirrored version can be spread to different channels. Oftentimes, a video removal only brings more attention to the video and encourages people to re-upload it so it can reach a wider audience. So this decision by YouTube seems like a calculated effort to prevent the spread of offensive content without fully censoring it. Right-wing alternative media figures and conspiracy theorists have been complaining for weeks that YouTube is already manipulating the algorithms to limit their limit their reach and revenue. And this announcement will likely only add to the resentment of a platform that they rely upon to reach their audiences.
There's one sanctified preacher I had listened to who actually had his teachings taken off of sermon audio. Sermon audio just deleted him without any warning or notice, because he was covering stuff that he's basically exposing the other people on sermon audio. And so if people think that YouTube is the crux of the internet, or that there are not conspiracies in other places that call themselves Christian, you've got to be joking, okay? This is a much wider thing than people think that it is. And that's why there's some people that tiptoe around the internet thinking, oh no, they're going to see everything I do. They're going to see everything I do. Well, if you're doing what's right, who cares if they see what you do? Who really cares if you're doing what's right? Okay. And so that's something we have to stop and keep in mind, I guess.
YouTube also announced today that it has added to the list of NGOs it is working with to help determine what content should be hidden. And an NGO is a non-governmental organization. These organizations include the No Hate Speech Movement, the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, and the Anti-Defamation League. Oh, I said that wrong, but which recently drew the ire of far-right outlets and pundits by publishing a list of alt-right and alt-right personas.
These names keep getting longer. Just longer and longer. The official pro-anti-disestablishmentarianist group says, this is ridiculous.
YouTube stated today, these organizations bring expert knowledge of complex issues like hate speech, radicalization, and terrorism that will help us better identify content that is being used to radicalize and recruit extremists. We will also regularly consult these experts as we update our policies to reflect new trends.
So that means they're going to ban all the Islam videos, right?
Maybe.
Oh, well, you see, they don't want to do that. You see, all the Islam that say, oh, the Muslim video says Islam is peace. They're going to ban that, right? Because that's extremist. Oh, wait. They don't define it that way. Ah, there's the problem. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Who's training these people? Who exactly is doing? No one's going to see. And they definitely aren't going to give away any of their information of who's doing it because, I mean, and you have to stop and consider the money that YouTube pulls in. Who are they going to hire? Very experienced professionals who've had experience doing this kind of stuff. I would not be surprised for a second if they hired some sort of counter-terrorist intelligence officers to watch YouTube videos all day. It wouldn't surprise me. And the thing is, what they're going to claim is terrorist eventually is not going to be things like the Muslims. I mean, that's not what they're going to hone in on. I guarantee you most of this is coming from the wailing and the whining and the screaming and the yelling from the feminazis and the Black Lives Matter movement. That's where most of this is probably coming from. Because they have nothing better to do than cry all day because they don't know how to go out and get a job like a real citizen of the United States.
YouTube did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The update also touted the success of the machine learning-driven removal.
Denied comment. If anybody's dealt with YouTube, YouTube does not have some, hey guys, contact us at this number if you need customer support. They don't have that. YouTube just exists. They have a forum where you can go on there, but YouTube doesn't answer anything. Other people who go on the YouTube forum answer things, and nobody knows what's going on. So for say that YouTube denied comment, YouTube is not a person, okay? The company, I think, operates by ninjas. I think the entire flood of their CEOs are ninjas because nobody knows who they are.
Well, I think I read that too fast and I slurred my words because it's worded differently. But what you said, I think, is would apply in most situations. But it said already, YouTube did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So I'm thinking that they eventually, did, just not immediately. But that's my fault. But the update also touted the success of the machine learning driven removal of content, claiming that over the last month, YouTube algorithms have found 75% of policy violating extremist content before a human was able to flag the videos.
Let me tell you how accurate their machine algorithms are, okay? They're calculated algorithms. I once had done teaching in which I had exposed some of Oprah's statements, because Oprah is, I pretty much consider her one of the many antichrists before the final one. But I simply put it to one of her shows. You know, I put the references in there. This is her show. This is when it was aired, and I played approximately 90 seconds of it to quote her. Okay. I did not take credit for her show or anything like that. I got flagged multiple times for having copyrighted material, not by Oprah's or the company that I think she's on, what, ABC or something like that. It wasn't them. That wasn't who was flagging me. I was getting flagged by a person who had a total of 3 subscribers and 3 videos. I think it may have been 2 subscribers and 3 videos. And the videos had maybe like 10 views. I was like, what is this? And I went to it, and it was somebody who they, I guess, made up some sort of music. They played some sort of like instrumental rap music. And in the background, I don't even really know what the purpose of this was. I don't know if this was a hacked thing or what they were trying to experiment with. It may have been an experiment to see what YouTube will catch, so that way they can come back and give, and they can make more illegal videos or things like that. But what they had done is played softly in the background the same audio that I had put on that clip. And they were flagging me for stealing copyrighted material. I didn't play their music on the video. I played Oprah's clip. What they were doing, I had to turn around, and finally I just ignored it. But after the 3rd time being flagged by them for inappropriate content, because I don't want that coming back on my account. See, they put strikes on your account, and I don't want that coming back on me. So I turned around and I flagged them for falsely claiming copyright ownership over Oprah's material, because that's illegal, and that's what they did. As soon as I filed that, I didn't hear about it ever again. YouTube allowed them to do it repeatedly, even though when I challenged it, I put in the comments, I said they are actually claiming copyright material, but you see, their machines don't pick that up. It would take it off and then re-put it back on. You've been flagged, and they keep doing that. And then I have to go to that person's fake channel and put in a complaint about it, and then finally the thing gets shut down. I don't know whether the channel got shut down or not. I didn't actually go check, but I'm pretty sure it probably got flagged out and shut down. But that's how accurate that really is. I mean, people can flag all sorts of material, and it's done so falsely. I mean, you would actually end up having to have more people hired to correct the machine's problems than you would from actually just having people view the videos and check them out, check all the warnings. But again, when you have these social justice smurfs who come out and all they do is that they spam the complaint like, oh, I got to flag this video because it upset my personal feelings. It made me feel bad. Flag YouTube. Or an atheist who's like, I don't like that Christian. He told me what I was doing was bad. Flag YouTube. And that's what they do. And they have nothing better to do all day than to act like they're 5. Well, that's what YouTube doesn't want to spend a bunch of their resources dealing with those people. So it's not typically people like me, like the Christians they have to deal with. It's these wicked people out here in these movement organizations that are causing all sorts of problems. That's why they have to do this junk. So I'm not saying this is something that Christians have to fear over. But yes, these kind of policies that they're implementing can be abused. And I do believe that eventually they will be abused.
And that was the end of that article. So if there's no more thoughts, I'll proceed. An article from the Huffington Post is titled, Guy Wears Colander and Driver's License Photo to
Can I
Spread...
address something real quick? I'm sorry, before you start that, can I address something? Someone in the chat had pointed out, they said they do have a contact number for YouTube Red. That's because people pay for YouTube Red. Okay, I'm talking about they don't have a contact number for YouTube. Okay, so I don't want people to get mixed up and say, oh, he's teaching false information. No, YouTube Red subscribers, they pay for the service, and the people that post videos on them is another service. They all pay into that. So yes, if they're paying for it, they have to have a contact service number. Otherwise, you're not going to have a customer base after very long. But the YouTube General does not have like customer service contact number because there's no customers. It's a free service. So you can't sit back and complain about something that's free. I mean, you can, but they don't have to listen to you. So that's the point I was making. Sorry. Please start over. I want to hear what your next article is.
An article from the Huffington Post is titled, Guy Wears Colander and Driver's License Photo to Spread Religious Freedom. And I didn't know what a colander was, but it's like a bowl with holes in it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a bowl that you strain like pasta and stuff out of. Did you said he wore it in a driver's license video?
In a driver's license photo.
I know a driver's license photo on his driver's license, correct?
Yes, correct.
Wrong. Something's not right here. There is no DMV in the world that would allow him to do that. None. The only way he could have done that is if somebody at the DMV did something illegal. Either it was a friend of his that said, hey, let's do this as a joke, and then he tried to say it was taken seriously. That's the only way that would have gotten by, and that DMV driver would have been not only fired, but likely prosecuted, because that's not legal. You have to show your natural, what you look like, right? I mean, there's things about dyeing hair and all that stuff. There's really not much you can do that, but you have to just show your natural face, your natural head. That all has to be visible in the picture.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the article says it looks better draining pasta. A Chandler, Arizona man now has an official driver's license featuring a photo of him wearing a colander, the Arizona Republic reported Thursday. Sean Corbett actually succeeded after years of trying to be photographed with a spaghetti strainer hat and being rejected at the motor vehicles department. One location finally allowed it, and the license arrived in the mail on Tuesday. Corbett, a Lyft and Uber driver, told ABC 15, "The whole process is intimidating, especially when people are yelling at you and scorning you for making a mockery out of their system." Corbett told the Republic that his quest was all in the name of religious freedom. As a Pastafarian in the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Corbett said he wanted to ease the way for people of other religions to don the headwear of their choice, such as a hijab or a turban, without opposition. Corbett told the Republic, Corbett told the Republic, "It's nothing anybody should have to experience. They shouldn't be bullied because their beliefs are different from other people." He added that some people may view the religion as a satirical version of a standard religion.
This is not the driver's license issue. Is not there. See, I'm not even in agreement that the driver's license is necessarily constitutional in any sense. I think it's a socialist thing to do in the first place. Okay, and so what we need to understand is that that's another subject, though. What we need to understand here, the purpose of the driver's license is not to protect. I mean, what the picture is doing is if somebody commits a crime, they need to be able to be identified for who they are. Okay, period. And that way there is no mix-up on who someone is. Now, there are tons of problems with the driver's license itself. I understand for people that want to complain at me, there's it's a socialist concept. All right, first of all, in the first place, I don't necessarily agree with it at all. But at the same time, if one of these Muslims does something that's wrong, they're wearing their little turbans around their head or protect themselves and all that, how is the police to catch the right person when they're all wearing the same thing? How is it that one, you see, that's how a terrorist could get away with doing something, is when they can't be identified, they can shove it off on other people. You can easily arrest the wrong person who may have been at the wrong place at the wrong time if you don't have the proper identification. Now, I'm not all for the papers, please type Nazi stuff. I understand what people are going to say on that. Okay. At the same time, and on top of that, there's all sorts of identification problems. I know personally of people who have problems with, the state recognizing them. I still, I have problems I had a problem getting a license in another state because I was listed as I had my license suspended in New Jersey, a state I've never been in my life. And I was also listed as a black man. And so that's the way the government viewed me, because I had the same birth date as somebody named Christopher Johnson that lived in New Jersey. but he's black and has a license suspended. I've never been to New Jersey. So, I mean, so there's all sorts of mix-up and problems that their system has. I get that. But from the basic perspective of a police officer that's doing a police stop, they need to make sure that the people who are, you know, if you have somebody, a Muslim from another country who's coming in here, and maybe they have ill intentions. After all, they've done it many times. Maybe they have ill intentions, and they have the wrong identification card. That can lead a police officer on a basic routine traffic stop that maybe was just to give a warning that their taillight was out, can lead them into an investigation of stopping a terrorist plot. That can actually happen. And that their job is to keep us safe through that. It's not to expose you, okay? Now, I'm not saying that that system is not going to be taken advantage of, which is what all socialist systems are. And that's why I'm totally against the identification of it in the first place, okay? And if we got rid of the whole thing, there wouldn't be a problem in the first place. But at the same time, it's there for protection of the citizens who are following the law. But so again, I have mixed positions on the issue, and so that's why I'm having a hard time talking about this, is because I know the earful I will get from both sides, because I've heard it all before. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, it's there for identification purposes. That's why they call it basically it serves two purposes. It's serving as the driver's license, which again, license being socialist construct, but then it's also an identification card. To identify you means that you need to be identified as you, not as what other features you want to put on you. It's not one of these things where I want to identify myself. You need to ask me what my pronouns are. So how dare you call me ma'am, or how dare you call me this because you didn't ask me what my pronouns are. This kind of social justice Smurf nonsense. That's what this is all coming out of. And the guy that probably did this is probably one of those Smurfs himself, and probably just doesn't identify that way. Look, I don't care if you identify as a Smurf or not. I can see that you're a Smurf, okay? I can see the blueness all over your face and everything just by your actions. So all I'm pointing out is that what it's for, okay? And this flying spaghetti monster nonsense, the guy's probably an atheist, likely, because usually that's a phrase that usually comes out of atheists when they say those types of things. So why he's even complaining about religious rights in the first place, you have to understand that your religious rights are being protected to even come out and say those things. And I want to know if this article is going to point out that the person who gave him the idea, took the photograph, was fired from the DMV.
Well, and I just wanted to point out here that I got my colander and wore it in honor of this guy. The thing is it's obviously some kind of made up religion, and you don't have to identify religion when you go to get a driver's license, which is totally so why bother?
You got feedback coming through your mic. Can you mute it?
I was just going to say the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster was something that was made up by Richard Dawkins.
Okay, well, you see there, it's an atheist concept. Yeah. Go ahead, Tanya.
Nope, I'm finished.
The continues. Corbett's crusade may be cut short, however. CNN reports that the state is going to revoke the license. Keep faith, brother. That's what the author said at the end of the article. But there's a there's a picture, and in the picture of he tweeted, sorry, he made a tweet, and there's a picture of the tweet on the article, and the tweet says, first in Arizona to represent Pastafarianism on a state-issued license. This is big news and a big win for the Pastafarian community, the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. The Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. What was that?
That is kind of funny. It's good. Pastafarianism. I see why you prefaced that original article.
Oh, yeah. And Pastafarians no longer need to fear the rejection from uninitiated MVD employees, as I have paved the way for your salvation. Amen. Whatever. But
what do you see? This is why I think he's just one of those social justice warrior Smurfs. That's why. is because it didn't do anything. That did absolutely nothing. Whatever he claimed it didn't do anything. Nothing changed. They'll revoke the license, probably find out who did it, hopefully, and somebody should be losing their job over that, really, because you're being paid by our tax dollars. You're not being paid to allow this guy to go off on his rants and just do whatever he wants to do. You're a public servant. So whoever's doing this, if somebody involved in the investigation happens to hear me say that, you need to find this person and they need to be fired at minimum, if not prosecuted.
And that was the end of that article, but we have another article, but I don't think we should go into it because there's a lot to say about this article, this next one. So perhaps I shouldn't have saved it to the end, but I think we will stop there for the articles. So were there any more thoughts before we close? All right, then thank you all who have spent your valuable time to listen to us. We appreciate it and would like you to know that you can comment or read comments for this video by clicking the link in the description, which takes you to the forum. And on the forum, you could even have discussions with us throughout the week. Just post an introduction on the Introduce Yourself section and let us know who we're talking with. Hope to have you there, and Lord willing, we're going to see you next week.